Well, I waited too long for the pause because I want to take some photos, so we're starting the video again to the point where I want to work my short rows. And notice that I have these pairs of the stitch and the yarn over, and I have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want to have the same number on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm ready to work my short rows. And the process for doing this is a little different than for the wrap and turn ones. I work up to where my first yarn over stitch pair is, and I knit the stitch. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to work this yarn over and this stitch together. And notice that this is oriented, my yarn over is oriented in such a way that if I work them together, it's going to twist it. So I'm going to shift it to reorient it. I'm going to work them together. Now, the directions that I use for this are Priscilla Gibson Roberts, and she always has you work an additional yarn over at the beginning of these rows, even as you are working them, and it just gives the join a little bit more strength. So I'm going to do that. And we'll see that that makes a difference what you do for subsequent rows. So I'm going to work to my first yarn over stitch pair, and I'm going to do a decrease on the purl side. And to use that, I'm going to use a slip, slip, purl. Well, I work the first stitch, and I have my yarn over, but both it and the stitch need to be reoriented or they're going to be twisted. So I'm going to slip my yarn over, I'm going to slip my stitch, and I'm going to return them to the needle, which twists them. And then to do a purl side decrease that is a match to an SSK, which I would be doing on this side, is I need to work those two stitches together from the back. Now what that means is I come from underneath this one into that one. And I find it a little easier when I'm doing this decrease to just flip my work over and insert my needle that way. It distorts them less. I work them together, I do my yarn over, and then I work to my next stitch yarn over pair. Now this time, because I've got those 2 yarn overs, I'm going to do a knit 3 together, work that stitch, and I work to my first stitch before the yarn over. Notice I've got 2 yarn overs here and my stitch down here. So I'm going to knit those 3 together, and that's going to close the gap up. Knit 3 together and do a yarn over, and then work to the next one. Now again, I'm going to be doing an SSK on the wrong side. So I'm not going to be SS knitting, I'm going to be SS purling. And actually it's an SSS P. So I'm going to be doing that decrease, which is a bit tricky. But it is the purl side decrease you want to use, okay? Now there I've got my yarn over stitch. I have to reorient all of them, slip them back on the needle so they won't be twisted. And if you want them to be twisted, then don't bother with all that. It's on the heel of a sock. And again, I flip my work over and approach it from that way, but you could also do it from this way as well. Purl through the back, and then turn. And basically, I just do that until all of those yarn over pairs have been worked. So on. Now what it looks like when it's done is kind of hard to see on this swatch, and I have a sock here that is in progress. It looks like that. And so I knit this sock top down, so what it meant is, ooh, look like I joined some yarn. I worked, here's where I started. I worked all of those short rows until I got here where I turned, and then they worked them up to here, and then I was able to resume my sock. Or actually I probably did this toe up, so it was the other way. But anyway, that is the short row where you do a yarn over at the beginning.